unlearn is this idea of always apologizing. And
Hmm.
trying to just let things sometimes turn out how they need to turn out. It's rebalancing, right? Because to me, what
Hmm.
fills your cup is hope. So I like to do
Hmm.
things that make me optimistic, make me hopeful, see the world as glass half full and all full of possibilities.
Hello, and welcome to the Midlife Revolution Show, the show for busy and empowered women ready to transform their lives. I am your host, Coach Angie, and I'm super excited to introduce you to today's guest. This beauty is a true force in healthcare and leadership. And when I recently met her, I just had to have her on. She's so warm and so humble and funny that the day that we were in this really steamy hot birthday party. And just my kind of lady. Denise Brooks-Williams is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Henry Ford Health, overseeing a $12 billion system with more than 50,000 employees. But beyond the title, Denise is a Detroit native, a passionate mentor, and a champion for health equity, innovation, and women in leadership. She's here today to share her journey from humble beginnings to visionary impact and what it really takes to lead with purpose, resilience, and heart. Welcome, Denise, and thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with me and my viewers. So let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Thank you for
Before all the
having me.
accolades, I'm sorry.
I just said thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm just so excited to have you here. Um, Before all the accolades, though, and executive titles, who was Denise? And can you take us back to the moment you first knew you wanted to be a part of transforming healthcare?
Yeah, so Denise was a University of Michigan college student that was trying to
Mhm.
figure out what she was going to do in the healthcare space. I had the blessing to come upon a program called the Summer Enrichment Program, which was a pipeline program through the School of Public Health at U of M. And I spent the summer of my junior year at what's now Michigan Medicine, then it was the University of Michigan Hospital, really getting an opportunity to explore what it meant to be in a healthcare organization and, quite
Mhm.
honestly, having an impact on a community.
Awesome. Awesome. So you've led massive hospital systems. You've shaped policy and influenced national conversations, which is amazing. But personally, what has been the most fulfilling or surprising part of your journey so far?
I don't know that I would say it's surprising, but whenever I think
Mm.
of the personal, side of my journey, it's been able to have some of the professional accomplishments that I've had, but also to have two amazing daughters. So
Mm.
choosing to be a wife and a mother along a career journey is something that I'm sure a lot of your listeners deal with. And to me, it
Mhm.
is definitely the most proud personal part of my journey is having two well adapted adult daughters.
I love that. Yes, being a mother is just such a blessing. And to have kids that you are proud of is even more of a blessing. So, congratulations to that. Now, you're leading innovation in healthcare, but I want to know what grounds you outside of your executive role. How do you care for yourself? How do you stay balanced and protect your peace?
I would say a huge part of my kind of how I do self care, I call it girlfriendship for lack of a better word, but I have a circle of really, really dear friends. And ironically, the day that you and I met, we were celebrating one of them in a fairly hot environment. But for me, I think grounding really is in that having good, strong relationships and being intentional about being in community with those people that I love. It is also faith, right? So really making sure that I'm taking care of my spiritual self and getting rest, right? Doing my very best to make sure that I'm resting on a regular basis.
Rest is very, very important. Prioritizing yourself in all of those ways, especially being around a group of friends that you love and that uplift each other and encourage each other and support each other, is so key, to having balance, really. So I'm so happy to hear that you have that for you, especially in the position you're in, because I can only imagine. the stressors behind it. So I'm really happy to hear that. Now, mentorship seems to be a personal mission for you. Who poured into you early on, and how are you now intentionally showing up for other women in healthcare and leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I always say my first mentor was my mom, right? So my
Mhm,
mother was someone who was always very positive and not in a way that was trivial, right? She was very clear.
mhm,
You've got to make
mhm.
investments to get outcomes. And so,
Yeah.
her theory was if you want to be a strong student, then obviously you have to study, you have to show up, you have to, be in the right space. So she, I would definitely say, was my first mentor. I've been incredibly fortunate to have many over the years. And
Mhm,
sometimes those have been bosses, they've been other people in the profession, and sometimes
mhm,
they've been peers, right? I learn a lot just from people that I work alongside. And so making those, kind of deposits, I think have really shaped me. And my perspective has always been, how do I give back, right? So mentoring
mhm,
others has definitely been
mhm.
a huge part of what I think, is a part of my personal legacy.
Awesome. And so basically, you answered my next question because you already spoke about your amazing daughters. And, with you leading at the highest levels of healthcare, the legacy you want to leave is pretty much what you just said. But can you expound on that? Just as, not just as a leader, but as a woman?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that I'm definitely in the thoughts about legacy now, being over 30 years in my career. And to me, the mentoring part simply is the opportunity to give back, right? So helping,
Mhm,
and it doesn't necessarily always have to be early careers, right? I talk to people at every stage of their career that are trying to understand how they can have impact. Sometimes it's how they start in healthcare. People are switching, professions. So I think that's one part of the legacy I hope is that I've helped someone, and that there are
mhm,
people in the profession that would be able to refer to either a conversation or something that
mhm,
we've been able to connect on. Definitely
mhm,
on a personal side, I think I've said it. Of course, if you're blessed to be a parent, if that's what you choose to do, I try to make a lot
mhm,
of deposits, into my daughters, but into other young people in my life as well, my nieces, my nephew,
mhm,
godchildren, so on and so forth. And that really, to me, is another part of your legacy, right? Helping them to be their best selves,
mhm,
and helping them to find whatever their purpose is, to use their skills and talents. So, really,
mhm,
those are the two things for me, right? It's about the people you impact, and
mhm.
being able to leave, those deposits with them that hopefully are going to help their journeys to be that much faster or easier to accomplish whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, totally agree. And I love it. In your experience, how important is physical and emotional wellness to sustaining leadership and longevity in a high pressure career?
Yeah, I mean, I think the further I go into the profession, the more I learn. So I spoke earlier about rest, which has kind of been my summer philosophy, and trying to incorporate. You and I, ironically, when we met, talked about that. How do you build in the physical activity when your schedule
Mhm,
is not consistent, right? So
mhm,
I, of course, like everybody, thank God, have a television and weights and things at home, so you can incorporate
mhm.
some things at home. I don't find that I really take the time or have the time to go to a gym. We talked
Yeah,
about virtual fitness, right? How do you fit that in? Because you can do that wherever you're going. So I think
yeah.
it's critical, that you're taking care of yourself and you're making sure that you
Mhm,
know what you need to be working on, and having physical activity. So even if it's walking, like I said, or using weights, but something that is allowing you to move, as we've heard, sitting, certainly post pandemic, is like a new epidemic because you
yeah,
have so many people that are working just like we are, right? You can do things remote, you're doing it, in a sitting position, which is incredibly
yeah.
dangerous, right? So you need to be up and be active. I think
Mhm,
the mind part of it is also critical, right? So I try to find quiet. So people laugh at me because I tend to drive in silence. And
mhm,
because sometimes the only silent time I get. And of course, I occasionally need to do a phone call or whatever, but that's fine. But if I can, right, just no radio, no phone, just kind of be with my own thoughts. And some people will call that meditation. It's not that I'm always meditating. I will try to do that as well. But just having the
mhm.
quiet, right, so that your thoughts can be clear and composed and you can be focused, I find that is equally very important.
Yeah, I agree. And most of my clients that I serve are in positions such as yours. And that is the biggest thing that I have to consistently speak with them about is to prioritize themselves and their health and physical fitness, and getting up and actually scheduling that time to get up and move on their calendars. Like everything else is scheduled on the calendars, meetings upon meetings upon meetings. But where are you on your calendar? Where are you on your schedule? And so that is huge. Um, it's a huge thing that I just really drive home with my clients, um, about prioritizing themselves in their own life. We must do that. It's
Mhm.
so uber important, so important. So you've driven major transformation through partnerships, through philanthropy, and through tech. What advice would you give to a woman with big vision but limited resources? Where would she start?
Wow. I think that the partnership piece would be there, right? So I think if you're trying to start an initiative, figure out who your partners are. As you said, it happens in large businesses like ours, but on a very personal level, if you're trying to, start your business and connect, you still need partners. So you need a
Mhm,
finance partner. How are you going to come up with the capital that you need? I have a girlfriend who recently is starting a new venture. And when we
mhm,
sat down and kind of did the mapping around what would be some of the key things she needed to do, it was identifying who are people who will invest in your dream and your vision. So you got to have a
mhm,
pitch, so I would certainly suggest that she's very clear, right? What are you trying to accomplish? What is the product or service or whatever it is, that you're seeking to bring to the market? And then you can
mhm.
identify who does that support and serve. So that's how you're going to find those partners. And those
Right.
partners hopefully will include investors, right? So people who believe in that same vision or impact that you're trying to have. And then I
Mhm,
think that she has to tell people, right? So kind of what's the marketing and promotion of what the idea is so that
mhm.
you can start to build that clientele, right? And so
Yeah.
my
Mhm,
girlfriend was able through that kind of, doing a little mapping of who to bring in as partners. She found grants, right? So she's
mm.
found some funding that she does not have to pay back. She also was able
Yeah.
to find some investors, right? People who were willing to invest in the business. Because I think that's sometimes what people forget is that if you share your
Mhm.
vision and your dream, there are other
Yeah.
people typically who might want to solve that same problem or that see
Mhm.
that issue, and they'll invest in you being able to, bring it to market.
It's very true. That's very true. Um, so if a midlife woman is watching this right now, so of course, women over 35, over 40, if they're watching right now, thinking, I missed my chance to lead, to grow, to shift gears in my life, what would you say to her?
I would say you most certainly did not. If you're if midlife is kind of that late 30s, early 40s, early 50s, even as we know, I have friends and colleagues who are still pursuing higher education, whatever that might be for them. So if they wanted to be a therapist, they're getting the therapy certificate. If they wanted to have a doctorate, I actually honestly have three friends in my circle who have finished, doctorates, and they've done that well into their 50s, right? So I think
Hmm.
it's this perspective of life is to be lived. It's not a clock,
Yeah.
right? Tell everybody that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if there's something that you seek to do, you still have
Yeah.
time. You still have time,
Yeah.
right? And we see the little
Yep.
snippets sometimes on social media of people
Mhm.
finishing whatever it is, right? The degree, the marathon, the race, whatever it is that they wanted to do.
Yep.
So I think we
Hmm.
sometimes have to move away from that, right? That there's a certain age. There certainly might be certain limitations, like you probably can't just jump up and have a military career in your midlife. However,
Hmm.
there's reserves, there's still other ways to serve the country if that's your desire. So I think I would just say take the step back and say, what is it that you're really trying to do? I don't
Yeah.
believe that it's ever too late. You may not be
Mhm.
able to do it the exact same way you would have done it if you did it, in your teens or early 20s. But even in your
Mhm.
50s or 60s, if it's something you desire, I think you should still go for it.
I agree. Totally. Totally. I would never, ever discourage someone, I don't care how old they are, from their dreams.
Exactly.
Go
Exactly.
for
Like you
it.
said, if you're doing what you said, if you're taking care of yourself physically, taking care of yourself emotionally, and
Hmm.
you're up to the task to do something, I would say
Hmm.
go for it.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So you spent years leading in some of the most high pressure environments imaginable. I would think that where you are right now is one of those, but what's something you've had to unlearn as you've grown in leadership, personally or professionally?
Yeah, I think some of the unlearned behavior that I would have, and I'll do it on, maybe the personal side, and
Hmm.
that is this concept of, always, I apologize. I'm going to put it like this. So I apologize a lot. I'm the type of person, if I bump into the table, I'm apologizing to the table, which as we know, is an inanimate object. So one of the things that I try to unlearn is this idea of always apologizing, and
Hmm.
trying to just let things sometimes turn out how they need to turn out.
Okay.
And for me, that's been, something that I try to focus on. So still, living in gratitude. And I really do have a very humble disposition around the work that I get to do. I think it's a privilege and a blessing, but
Hmm.
sometimes things don't turn out as they need to be, and it's not within my control. And my
Right.
nature would be to still personally apologize, right? So I might have professional disposition on that and try to explain why we are where we are. But I'm no longer personally trying to hold myself, to the standard of, oh, I need to apologize, so I need to make this right. So that's been a little bit of my journey.
I love that. That's enlightening for me as well. That's amazing. Thank you for that, Denise. Thank you for teaching me something today. And when you're not leading billion-dollar systems or mentoring future leaders, what brings Denise joy? Whether it's a hobby, whether it's a favorite getaway, or just a quiet moment, what fills Denise's cup?
I think it's all of the above, So, as I said, I'm very much a relationship oriented person. So, filling my cup is being with the people I love, right? And that starts with my
Mhm.
own house. Wednesday will be my 31st wedding anniversary. So yes, so I married my college sweetheart, who ironically I went to high school with, but I did not know in high school. So
Super cool.
we've been in each other's footprint now for well over 40 years. But so
Oh.
that's the first, right? So just being able to have time with my husband and my daughters, my mother, my siblings, so I love family and friends. And that does fill my cup. It
Mhm.
is replenishing
Yeah.
to be with the people I love. In terms of getaways and spaces, anywhere we're a traveling family. So there are no bad places to travel, in my opinion. So if I could take a trip, because of course that
Mhm.
creates some of that, distance with your professional, you're able to
Mhm.
just, have a little bit more downtime. And
Mhm.
pastimes for me really are, I just like to watch television that's mindless. So if I get a chance to just watch a
Mhm.
funny show or something, then that
Mhm.
also to me can be renewing.
So give me an example of a show that you like to watch.
I have
Like,
been
what's your thing?
watching, yeah, I have been watching Cedric the Entertainer's The Neighborhood. Because a
Mhm.
lot of times I'm watching it on, it's recorded because I don't have time to
Mhm.
watch it in real time, and it really is just a funny story about two next door neighbors, two families, and kind of how they're living their life. It happens to be set in Detroit, so part of the reason I like it, I don't think it was filmed in Detroit, but kind of the backstory of it is Detroit, and so you get to hear all these funny things about Detroit
Are you
people.
talking about Cedric the Entertainer?
Yeah, the neighborhood. Yeah, Cedric the Entertainer's The Neighborhood. Yeah, yeah, yep.
I like it
It's
too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and to me, it's like it's light. It's not so heavy. It's not
Yeah.
watching the news, which I try not to
Yes.
do a lot of.
Yes.
So to me,
Same.
that is it's rebalancing, right? Because to me, what fills
Mhm.
your cup is hope. So I like to do
Mhm.
things that make me optimistic, make me hopeful, see the world as glass half full and all full of possibilities. And then
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I go back into sometimes professionally what can be a challenge, right? Because today
Mhm.
my profession, has some challenges that are coming out of the national budget, or
Mhm.
just some of the work that we're doing in terms of integration. So
Oh wow. Yeah. So yep. So the neighborhood it is.
it's
That's your escape. That is you.
a
Yeah.
good old
I have.
Detroit neighborhood. So it's, yeah, it's a
Mhm.
nice funny escape. Yes,
It is. It's real. It's a cute. It's a cute, very cute show.
yeah.
I like it a lot too. And we align in that way where I don't watch a lot of television at all, but when I do, I need it to be funny. I needed to take me into spaces where I'm laughing out loud and It's not, like you said, it's not heavy. And even if
It-
they have heavy subject matters in that show, well, of course you're going to get the comedy with it. So it's not, it's so I align with you in that. I have to have peace, and peace gives me, and I find my peace, if I'm going to just escape, it's going to be in some comedy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Romance. Now, my family will tell you I'm also a Hallmark channel. So if
Oh.
you catch me around Christmas. I'm watching Christmas stories like on a loop. But to your point, honestly, the common theme as you talk about that, how do you replenish, how do you renew, it creates
Hmm.
hopefulness, right? And I do believe our mental perspective is a huge part of our
Yeah.
ability to de-stress and be able to be
Hmm.
hopeful. If you believe, right, perceptually that it's possible, then normally your mindset is going to, be in a real positive space.
I love that. Is that how you got to where you are? Like your mind just.
You know what? I try my daughter, so my oldest daughter is 28, and she'll
Hmm.
tell you that back when she's probably an elementary school student.
Hmm.
And she was I'm gonna call it like a voluptuous baby, right? So not a
Hmm.
skinny mini, but a voluptuous baby. And you know that when you're younger, that could be something to have you stick out, right? So self-image and body image and things like that
Hmm.
were things I focused on. So I
Hmm.
had her literally go to like a self-empowerment like little camp, but it was for everybody. Didn't You could be there for whatever reason, but part of it was
Hmm.
like affirmations. And so she laughs to this day. She's like, my mom was probably the only one who's, I'm beautiful. I love myself. As a
Oh.
kid. But for me, I kind of found, what it is, mind over. Think about it. It's like mind over matter. What we believe
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
typically what we achieve. And I'm not saying it to
Yeah.
be hokey, but our
Yeah.
minds are very powerful. So I do
They are.
believe that mindset and perspective absolutely have contributed, to whatever successes I've had, both personally or professionally. And I do share that a lot with young people because think about it,
Hmm.
we can hear people get very
Yeah.
downtrodden and distressed and
Yeah.
hopeless and not
Yeah.
seeing the possibilities. And that will manifest sometimes into how you interact, right?
Yeah.
How you connect with people, how you see yourself, how you think you can or can't do something. So it is a huge part of it. So I definitely do believe that it's been impactful for me, and it's all time work, right? It's not like it's a constant state. So you have to
Right.
be cognizant of it, which is why you redeposit with the
Hmm.
relationships and friendships and with the mindless. I call it mindless television because I'm like, don't bring me anything that's too provocative. I want it to be, and same with movies, right? I want it to be a little light. I don't need it to be so confrontational or significant because to me it's just continuing to have that reframing, so being in a positive space.
I love that. And I love to end on that because it's just so imperative that we find ourselves, love ourselves, understand who we are. A lot of us, thankfully to God, that we have supportive families that will pour into us in that way. But a lot of times it's the outside world that somehow we care more about. And like you said, it can leave us depressed. It could leave us feeling really badly about ourselves. I don't get that scientific reasoning behind why we gravitate more toward negative when we're in a house full of positive every day, and that's our influence for our whole life practically. But I'm just so happy that you ended with that, like what you believe you can achieve, what you believe about yourself and what you can accomplish, you absolutely can do that. And it shouldn't take the outside world to tell you that. You know who you are, you know what you can do. So, with
Absolutely.
that, I want to thank you so much, Denise, for coming on and sharing so much of yourself because I know you are a super busy woman. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It is wonderful what you're doing. I think that
Thank
this
you.
platform is awesome. So no, thank you so much for having me.